Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. Look who I have with me today. It's actress Kennedy McMann. So welcome, Kennedy.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. I was really happy when you agreed to come on the podcast.
You're so sweet. I was very
Yeah.
happy to be asked.
Well, thank you so much. So I like to start here. We'll just jump in. Tell me a little bit about what got you into acting. What made you want to become an actress?
Well, I come from a very creative family.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my mom was always pursuing writing, and my father was a vocal performance major and was a worship leader at our
very
church.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I grew up singing because of him. And as when I was in elementary school, I was diagnosed with quite severe obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay.
And that was really took over my entire life.
And what was that like when you have that when you're that young? How does that manifest? What's that like?
Yeah, I think it manifests very differently in everyone. So yeah. The basis of it being obsessive thoughts that then lead to compulsive behaviors.
Right.
So for me, I had a lot of fears about someone breaking into our house. I had a lot of sort of obsessive thoughts about that and locking windows over and over and over and over again. And that was sort of the compulsory behavior, and it ebbed and flowed and changed in a lot of different ways. But it was really overwhelming, I think, for me and for my family. And I think there was always a hope that I would find some kind of outlet or something at least to distract me, because that's a big part of sort of how you handle that kind of therapy. And I had a close friend of mine who was auditioning for the Three Musketeers at the local youth theater.
Nice.
And I said, oh, I remember actually this moment where I had the flyer in my hand at school. I think I was in the 5th grade. And I remember thinking to myself, this is my big break. And which is so funny. And I never really dreamed of being an actor at that point. I always wanted to be a singer, just because of my dad. And I auditioned for it and I got in the play and I absolutely loved it immediately, because for me, I realized when I was playing a character, I got to go to rehearsal every night and take my brain out that felt so troubled. And I could take my brain out and put a character's brain in my head instead, who didn't have all the problems that I had. And it was such a powerful form of escape for me. Yeah. And it's so therapeutic. And I just loved it. I loved it from the first time I tried it. And it really, I think it saved my life at that point. And and I never stopped. And I
think that's so neat, because you don't. I mean, now we're getting to the point where we're understanding some of these disorders and the how the brain functions and all of that. But it's all relatively new. But when you have that, or you suffer from that from a really young age, that's got to be just very overwhelming and a little terrifying.
Definitely. Yeah. Thankfully, my dad, OCD tends to be pretty heavily genetic. And my dad definitely suffered from it in his childhood and as a teenager. And so there was some connection there. He kind of understood what was happening. They've always been, my parents are the most wonderful people in the world, and have always, were so quick to get me into therapy and start addressing the issue, and have always been so supportive. So but it's really scary, and there's still so much we don't know about that. And that's just become a real sort of secondary passion of mine, of just supporting
I think it should be. That's great. Have you, as you've gotten older, have you learned to focus it to where you can make it kind of work for you at times?
Definitely. It was I had a wonderful therapist. And again, like my parents were very supportive, and I definitely saw sort of the other side of it. When I was in my teenage years. Not to say that it hasn't resurfaced in lots of other ways. I mean, mental health is such an interesting thing because there are these categories of symptoms that we label, but at the end of the day, it's really a big salad of a bunch of things mixed up together that kind of, peak out and then recede. And it's just a journey for everybody. But yeah, all that being said, I think going through that as a younger child, learning to be self-reliant, and at the end of the day, with something like that, you're the only one who can sort of make it through to the other side.
Right.
And to learn that and to become independent in that way, in terms of addressing what's happening in my own mind and my own emotions, from a young age, I feel like has really served me, and I wouldn't change it. It's a part of who I am.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific way to look at it. It seems like, just from outside looking in, there's a lot of creative people that suffer with OCD tendencies. And I think that's really interesting, because there's a connection there where it's almost like a negative and a positive. Sure.
Yeah. I think artists have a sordid history with a lot of, plenty of things happening in their brains, for better and for worse. I think that in a way that serves their art, and in a way that causes a lot of suffering. And in some ways, I think that, artists and entertainers and are just almost more comfortable being vulnerable.
Right.
And discussing it. I think it's something that's very prevalent in a lot of communities. It's just maybe not glamorized in the way that it is for artists. And yeah, I hope that I hope that we can kind of continue. And I feel like we've made so much progress as a society of just continuing to talk about it and realize it's something that most everybody is going through in some sort of
in some way. Yeah, that's exactly right. So did you do, what did you do through school, through high school and stuff? Were you in theater, or, were you in singing classes? What were you doing?
I took voice lessons throughout all of high school and college, and but I was very dedicated to acting, and extremely fortunate to have an incredible theater teacher in my head. I went to the public high school of all public high schools. Arizona was 49th in education at the time that I was going to school. We had classes of, 45 kids. Nobody had their own books.
Big class.
Yeah. And we had no money. And her name's Travia Stewart. She's an incredible woman who was so passionate and an incredible teacher, and who really took me under her wing as an actor in her theater classes. And we kind of felt like partners in crime a little bit. Like I think when she saw how eager and hungry I was to get better, she really met me halfway, and then met me way more than halfway. I always loved acting from, doing community theater and all that kind of stuff as I was growing up. But she was the one, I think, that really saw potential in me for the first time. And really stoked that fire. And I grew so much because of her. So yeah, that's really all I was doing. I was very head down. All I did was work on, I was also I was quite an academic. I'm quite a perfectionist still, and was always then, but theater was always at the heart of what I always wanted to do, and what I loved. And have
you, since you started working professionally, have you got to do any theater or a musical? Have you got to sing on stage?
Well, my first paid job as an actor was at a summer repertory theater in Ohio.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, that was while I was in college between my sophomore and junior year of college. And I went and you basically get cast in multiple shows in different parts. So we did, my very first show was a French farce called A Flea in Her Ear. And it was a blast. And then we did The Music Man as well. And then we also did this sort of like really funny playing. I think I played 13 characters in this. It's a Ken Ludwig play called Baskerville, which is like about Sherlock Holmes. And yeah, those were my very first paid jobs. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was brutally hot. We couldn't run the air conditioning in the theater. And, it was.
That's supposed to be the way it's supposed to be that way when you're first starting.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have had it any other way. But that's the only theater I've done professionally. I kind of stumbled into television sort of unexpectedly when after my junior year of college, there was a show that was filming in Pittsburgh, which is where I went to college.
Yeah. You went to Carnegie, right? Carnegie Mellon?
Yeah, Carnegie Mellon. Yep. Yeah. I had the best time there. It was wonderful.
Oh, it's a terrific school. And Pittsburgh's an underrated town.
Absolutely. It's a good town. Absolutely. I loved it there. And it changed so much in the time. I was there from 2014 to 2018.
Yeah.
And how much it changed even in those 4 years was absolutely wild. It's amazing. I love it. I really, really love it. I want to go back very badly.
Yeah, that's in my neck of the woods. Well, it's a couple hours away, but it's close to where we are. So we're pretty familiar with Pittsburgh. Love Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing city.
Yeah, pretty nice. So you stumbled into the television role. How did that come about?
So a professor of mine in the drama school that I went to was friends with a local casting director for the show. So they had cast all the main cast out of LA and New York, as you do. And they were looking for, it was a show called Gone. They had only ran one season. And they were looking for a bunch of college-aged girls to do different victim parts. And I went in for something and never heard anything. And, that's how it tends to go. But then I was on vacation actually in Michigan visiting family, and me and my now husband, he was just my boyfriend then, but I got a call from them saying, "Hey, can you come in tomorrow and come in for this different part?" And it had been months and months and months. And the fact that they even thought of me was mind blowing to me at the time. And I was like, yeah, I can come in tomorrow. And I'm in Michigan. And it was like 7 p.m. in Michigan. And I was supposed to be in at like 11 a.m. in Pittsburgh the next day. And of course, at the time, I wasn't going to say that I wasn't available. I was like, of course I'll be there. So Sam, my husband, drove me all night long back to Pittsburgh. And I went in for it, and I ended up getting the job. And that was my first episode of TV. And it was, I think, the second that I stepped on, I always thought I was going to do theater. Still do. I love theater. But I stepped on that TV set for the first time, and it was just magic to me.
Yeah.
There was something, and I still feel it. I still feel it every day. Like every day I step on set, there's just something there that just felt very right to me. Yeah. I love that. I just love the environment of it. And yeah, that sort of became my focus after that.
Yes, pretty good. That's pretty good. I think I may be wrong, but it seems like the first time I remember seeing you on something was like one of the crime shows, like a Law and Order.
Yes, that was my next job. Yeah, Law and Order SVU, which
that's right.
Everyone must do. Every actor must cross that threshold, and that was a true pleasure. They're such a great team there, and all the cast is so genuine and wonderful. And Mariska Hargitay is the most wonderful leader
Oh, she's amazing.
She's phenomenal and really conducts that set in a really graceful and powerful way. It was a pleasure to learn from her.
Is that normal when you're and you're kind of doing that now, but when you're the lead character on a show, do you feel responsible for the set? Like when new actors or guest actors come on the set, do you feel kind of like, you have extra duties?
I do. I don't think that's necessarily universal, but I think from the moment that you step into that position, you have the opportunity to set a tone.
Yeah.
Because whether you want it or not, people will look to you and make decisions on how they will behave based on your behavior. And I really took that seriously. And so, yeah, I definitely, my goal when I step onto set and if we have new people coming in, I want to make them feel as comfortable and as welcome as they can be.
Right.
I really care about the morale of our crew. And there's other people, of course, that are, we have a wonderful first AD and whoever the director is for that episode, and on-set producers who are really wonderful. And, it's definitely a team effort. But if I can contribute positively to people's experience, then I've won the day, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah, because you can so easily destroy people's morale.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, because they're coming into a situation, especially one where the cast has been together for a while. That could be really uncomfortable.
Definitely. If we ever have new crew or new actors coming in, it's also people aren't going to do their best work if they don't feel comfortable and at home. And I mean, I care about human beings more than the product of the show. That being said, it's also, if you're looking out for the product of the show too, you want people to be as comfortable as they can possibly be to do their best work. And that only serves everybody. And the best compliment that I feel like we've ever received as a production is when new crew or new cast come in and say, I have been wanting to get on this show for so long because everybody has such a great experience coming out of it. And that's just terrific. The best. And that's massively a team effort. And something I think we all really take pride in. Yeah,
that's pretty great. Were you a Nancy Drew reader growing up?
Most definitely, yes.
Yeah.
My mom was a bookseller when I was a kid. And so we were always very literary family. And, I always think my parents were very focused on empowering me. And Nancy was a very empowering classic figure in literature. And I definitely was a reader of the books. And there are video games, there are computer games that I was obsessed with when I was in high school, and even in college, that would be sort of a reward of, finishing a difficult semester of like, I'm just going to unwind with this Nancy Drew game. And so it's just the cosmic nature of the whole thing still blows my mind. When I remember my agent texted me and said, oh my God, there's a Nancy Drew pilot. And I was like, I have to go in for it. And at the time, of course, I didn't think anybody else, I'd hardly done anything. And I think they auditioned, like 4,000 girls for this.
Really?
It was just, I was never, in my head, I never thought I stood a chance. But when I read the script for the first time, it was like reading, was reading dialogue about the way that my brain works and the way that I speak. It was like reading a character that's inside my head already. And that happens so rarely. It really happens so rarely. You always kind of have to work for it in some way. And that was the first time I'd read a script and just gone,
that's me.
It's me. And, I never expected anybody else to believe that it was me, but it all worked out in the end.
Well, don't you think that the way that Nancy's brain works kind of fits some of your tendencies anyway?
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, we're very similar in a lot of ways and really different in other ways, but I think the tenacity that we both have,
yes,
and that perfectionism at any cost to our own detriment,
right,
I think is something that we share. And she has sort of a sardonic humor, and all of those things just felt so in alignment. Yeah, it was a perfect fit in my eyes at the start. And,
Yeah. Well, and really, and I was a big Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, Three Investigators, Bobbsey Twins, Tom Swift, all of that stuff growing up. Yeah. So, you come out with a Nancy Drew show, I was on board right away. And then when I start watching it, I'm like, well, they've stuck in some supernatural stuff.
Yes, for sure.
Which was just a terrific, fun twist. What was that like when you got in there and you found out it wasn't just mysteries? You got to do some fun stuff with it too.
Yeah, I don't think any of us, obviously Dead Lucy in season 1 was in the pilot episode.
Yeah.
And so we knew that there was going to be a component of that. I don't think any of us realized we were doing a totally supernatural show in the beginning.
Yeah.
And as it started developing, we were all like, oh, I guess this is what we're doing. And as it continued to evolve, it just became, not only is it really cool and fun, and like that's totally a good enough reason for something to exist, it's just really cool and fun, but it became an avenue for telling delicate stories in a way that almost removes it from anyone getting defensive over something. It's sort of a way of, how do I word this? It's just an avenue of kind of discussing sensitive things in a way that you can evaluate them and also find it entertaining, but still really learn something and explore something that means something to the human experience. And it's just been beautiful. I'm constantly impressed by our writers, and it's so much fun. I've also gotten to tick off a million things on my actor bucket list of I've done a scene with myself. I've, fought myself. I've gotten to work with all of this incredible, the creature makeup on our show is unbelievable.
Oh yeah, it's really good.
Almost everything is practical. So we don't have a ton of green screens or fake.
Really?
Anything.
Yeah, I assumed it was a lot of green screens.
No, most of it, I would say 85% of special effects and stuff on our show is practical.
Wow.
So it's actually happening, which is such a treat as an actor, because it's hard to act to things that aren't really there. Sure. The classic tennis ball on a stick sort of thing, or, green screen. And it's so amazing to, especially with, the creatures, to really have a manifestation of that there. And the special effects artists on our show are just phenomenal, and are tasked with the weirdest things all the time. They're like, how can you make this bulletin board leak black goo and have it actually happen? And it's just so cool. Everyone on the show is so creative, and it's just been really, really fun. Really fun.
You've got a really good cast, and it's a good blend of experienced actors and newer actors, I think.
Yeah, which is such a pleasure coming in. I think I was the least experienced. Yeah, I was the least experienced when we started. And
that's not scary at all.
No, oh my God, I was terrified. I think in a way, I just sort of blacked out. The pilot is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It was amazing because it was validating in that I always thought that this is what I wanted to do. And then you get thrown into the thick of it, and to still come out of it being like, yep, that's exactly what I want to do.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah. And so, I felt so lucky to be supported by the more experienced actors on our show. And Scott, who plays Carson on the show, is very quickly became someone. Him and I are very close, and he feels like another dad to me in real life. And just everything that he's imparted. And he's just been in the business a really long time. And that's the stuff that you really need people for, is that acting and actors are so different and you can learn from each other, and that's wonderful. But you're kind of, in your own lane in a lot of ways, and in terms of how you go about doing that. But when it comes to the business side of things, there's so much that you don't know. And there's so much that people in power over you don't want you to know, because then they can take advantage of you, which thankfully I have been treated extremely well. And I've just heard a lot of horror stories.
Sure.
But those are the kind of things that it's just so valuable to have people to consult, especially as I was navigating the person that I wanted to be and the professional that I wanted to be off screen. So just in terms of, setting a tone and interacting with people in a certain sort of way. And it's just really difficult to not have any feedback, and to have Scott and Riley, who have been around the block for a long time, and other people with other experience. Tunji and Alex had both done a lot of TV before, and Madison had as well. And Leah was more experienced than I was, but newer. And just to have that combination was, I think, wonderful. And the freshness that the newer actors were bringing is such a contagious energy, because it's so exciting. You're not jaded at all. Like everything.
That's it. You feed off each other.
Definitely. And I think that it helps for, Scott and Riley to have, who have done this a million times and are incredible professionals, to have, people who are really new and still excited kind of bring that energy back into the experience on set. So we're the luckiest in terms of our cast. We all genuinely really like each other. And
that's really cool. Time. It comes across, I think as a fan, you can tell when the chemistry is not really there.
Yeah.
But as a cast, you can really feel it. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Scott might be aging backwards. He does not look any older than he did when he was doing like Party of Five and that stuff.
I know. It is insane. What's funny is it's like hilarious in that you would think he's like not old enough to be my dad, but he's actually older than my real dad.
That's funny. Yeah, he just doesn't look it.
So young, and he's such, at least together, we're such school kids together. Yes. I always compare us to like two kids that would never be allowed to sit next to each other at a school assembly, like they would at the principal's office.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Are you filming the new season now?
Yes, indeed we are. Yeah, it's been great fun. It's so nice. I think there's something about being in season 4 now. It's like you really know your way around things, and you're sort of confident. And I think everybody's feeling just more confident to take risks and really knows their characters. And that's just a wonderful place to be. A lot of too.
Are we getting the gangs kind of getting back together this season? Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of individual journeys happening for the kind of main 5 Drew crew, in that everyone is growing into adulthood and figuring out what that looks like for them. And everybody's, kind of pursuing their own careers. Nancy's opened her investigation business. Yeah. George is studying law. Bess is taking over the historical society. Ace is going to work at the morgue. Nick's sort of figuring out what his next step is now that he has the youth center and the Claw. And so there's a lot of individual journey happening, but the sort of primary mystery of the season, which is introduced in the first episode, really, unites them immediately. Yeah. So everyone the Drew crew will always be there, even when there's sort of some individual things happening.
Things going on. Yeah. Any concerns when, the CW is kind of going through some stuff right now? Any worries that has to feel good that you guys are still hanging in there, because a lot of shows that were really good didn't quite make it.
Yeah, that was insane. I don't think it was what anyone expected. I mean, it's changing ownership. So that's, there's bound to be some shifts. And when we got renewed, and previously we had always been renewed in January or February. We were very lucky in terms of getting to know
pretty
that.
early.
And as time sort of ticked on, and nobody had any information. And when we got renewed in that first wave, I was certain that there would be a second wave of renewals for a lot of the other shows on the network. And when it came out that almost every single one of them was canceled, I think we all sort of looked at each other and were like, we're still here?
As fans, we did that. We're like, what happened?
I know. It's really, such a bummer. I really feel for all the people that lost their jobs and that. It's just absolutely heart-wrenching. But I feel so fortunate to still get to do the show. I mean, I think there's a lot more story there, and we're all really passionate about the characters and the story, and we have the best, most passionate, wonderful fans in the world. And I just, it's still kind of mind-blowing that happened, and that I think we're the fourth oldest show on the network now.
Wow.
Which used to be, I think, maybe the 9th oldest. And it just was, it's really, really strange, but I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to take it.
No, one of the things that I love about Nancy Drew is that they do incorporate a lot of those kind of the book series and things that were similar in tone, but not really connected in the books. But you've brought those in and redone them. So we got Bobbsey twins and we got Tom Swift. And I thought that was really cool. Now, of course, the one we want to see is the Hardy Boys.
Yes.
At some point, which would be nice. So if you can work that out, that would be great.
I think we're doing our best.
Yeah.
Currently, the rights are a little locked up.
Yeah. They had their own series out not too long ago.
Yeah, they have their own show on Hulu. And I think we would all love to get to incorporate that. So I really hope that happens at some point, but we shall see.
There was a lot of those books. The series for me was always this one called Three Investigators. I don't know if you've ever heard of those.
No.
But those, I'm just throwing that out there into the universe. If you ever want to, it was 3 young boys that kind of fell into solving crime. And those were the ones that I always kind of got into. So if they're looking, if somebody brings it up, you're like, how about these 3 investigators?
There we go. I'll keep that in mind.
And they always had kind of it was like a supernatural element, but normally they would solve it. So it turned out it wasn't actually supernatural.
A little bit of Scooby-Doo.
A little bit of Scooby-Doo. Yeah.
Very
pretty good. Was it difficult because the CW the last decade or so has definitely had a reputation of, there's a lot of romantic angst, as a newer actress coming in, was that difficult falling into those kind of, those type of roles and having to film some of those scenes when it's new?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a fear, I think, when you, especially when you don't know someone. I will say, like, I love romance as a consumer. That's my favorite. And when I was, growing up and watching the CW, that was all I cared about when I watched those shows was the relationships.
Did you have a show? What was your CW show?
I loved Gossip Girl. Which is that was the first time I ever stayed up all night watching something. I loved it. And Stephanie Schwartz and Josh, or Stephanie Savage and Josh Schwartz, forgive me, were the creators of Gossip Girl and the creators of our show. And the fact, I mean, that feels so surreal to me when I would, walk around middle school, like obsessing over these relationships in this show and just thinking about it all day. It's really come full circle. But so as a consumer, I think I know what I would want to see. And I think in some ways that was really exciting because it's fun to play those things out. But when you're first going into it and you don't know the person that you're with, that can be really scary. And I remember the second day of the pilot, Tunji and I filmed all of the Nick and Nancy stuff in the pilot. In his loft, which was like a lot of it actually got cut out, but it was pretty hot and heavy. And we both were, thank God he's the nicest person in the entire world. And we just were kind of like, neither of us had ever done a scene like that before. That
would be really difficult if you were partnered with somebody that was kind of a jerk.
Yeah. Especially then. I think I can handle it more now.
Right.
Because you just sort of understand it's not so scary. But in the beginning, I was so grateful. I think we both really took care of each other, and it's all about respect and being communicative. And yeah, it ended up being a very comfortable experience. And now, getting to do everything with Alex has been really wonderful. He's just a great friend of mine and an actor I really admire. And
that's been fun watching that develop.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad.
Yeah. It's been pretty great. So what comes after Nancy? Whenever Nancy's done, hopefully it's several years down the road, we would not be upset with like 7 or 8 seasons. That'd be great. But when Nancy's done, what is there something that you'd like to try? Is there a genre you'd like to get into, or would you like to go back and try theater? What would be next?
Yeah, I've never done a movie, and I would really, really like to.
Yeah,
I've never experienced it, so I would like to do that. I'm really into fantasy. I love fantasy.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah, absolutely. I play Dungeons and Dragons. I run the game. I read fantasy novels.
You're a little nerdy.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
I'm a Dungeons and Dragons guy growing up. The Stranger Things stuff is hit home with me because that was when I was playing was in the 80s.
Yeah.
So that's pretty all right. So you dungeon master a little bit.
I do. Yeah.
All right. You went up a little.
Indeed. Though I do prefer playing, I think, at the end of the day.
It is fun to play.
Yeah.
What's your fantasy novels? Do you have a fantasy series that is your favorite?
I go all over the board. Name of the Wind is such a classic.
I love the Name of the Wind.
It's just sweeping and incredible, and I think that really helped me fall in love with fantasy.
Is it Rufus?
Patrick Rothfuss.
Rothfuss, yeah. It's a good series.
Super talented. And I grew up, loving Lord of the Rings and all of that.
How can you not? What about Wheel of Time? Wheel of Time's got a series out there. I haven't
watched it yet. I really, really want to watch it because I love it's Rosamund Pike is.
Yeah. She's terrific in it.
I really think she's a super talented actor, and so I need to watch that. But yes, so I would love to do something in the fantasy realm. That's just would be, I think, the icing.
Do you want to be like a badass or a princess, or what's your role?
I would take anything, but I would love to be badass. That's what it's about. It's so empowering.
Yes.
And that would be really fun. But also I would love to get to wear, hair down to your waist and these beautiful robes. I would totally take that as well.
It can be both now. You could do the sorcerer, and still get to wear the dresses and stuff.
Absolutely. That's the best of both worlds in my eyes.
Yeah.
I would love to do fantasy. I also really love, my dad actually grew up teaching me to love Jane Austen.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. And I love period dramas and I would love to do that. That would be,
I love see you could totally do a period drama. I could see that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll send you some casting directors' emails so you can write them and say that.
I'll work on that for you. No problem. Yeah, I think that would totally fit. I could totally see you in a period piece, especially if you grew up reading Jane Austen and stuff. So you're familiar with some of the dialogue and stuff. Yeah, you could totally do that.
Well, thank you. But I would love to do that. But I'm open to a lot of things. I think the exciting thing about being an actor is, or at least what I love about it, is I just get to live a bunch of different lives.
Yeah.
And I'm really open to most anything in that respect, you know?
How about comedy?
I love doing comedy. I actually, that's sort of what I started doing when I started working in theater. Was really all comedy. But then when you're a young woman going into TV, you're a victim.
Right. Yeah, of course.
So that's at least, you know, even it's changed even in the last couple of years, but for the most part, a lot of your entry level roles are a lot of emotional distress.
Yeah.
And, you know, that thanks to the training that I had, that was something that, you know, was accessible for me. And I think kind of became my more defining features earlier on. And definitely, you know, Nancy's a very dramatic show, and she goes through a lot, and there's a lot of emotion in that and a lot of drama. But one of my favorite episodes we ever did was in season 2, where Nancy like inhales it's the lust dress episode.
Yeah.
And that was really the first time, because I had always kind of tried to sneak some comedy in there when I had the opportunity. And I think Nancy's kind of dorky, and, you know, has
she
her
she could totally do some comedy. She has her moments.
Yeah. So that was kind of the first time I really got to do it on the show and really go full hog with it. And we just had a blast. It's so much fun. And there's a sort of similar episode that we're actually shooting right now.
Very nice.
4, which it should be a blast. But yeah, I love comedy. I mean, I love deep emotions. And I think that's kind of, I just love feeling really big feelings. That's another reason I love what I do. And so, you know, drama is so satisfying to a part of me, but at the end of the day, I watch way more comedy than I watch anything else. And yeah, I think comedy is such a solvent in the world. And
we're meant to laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you creative in other ways? Do you write? Do you paint? Play an instrument?
I've gone through, I play a little bit of piano, and I do some songwriting. I still sing, not as much as I used to, but I used to sing and dance. I started when I was, you know, kind of before I got to high school. I always thought I wanted to do musical theater. So I did the singing, dancing thing for a long time. In terms of that, I leave the writing. My mom is now a very successful author, and I leave that to her. And my dad is actually going to be a published author soon. And so I leave the writing to them. Very exciting. And yeah, my husband's also a very talented writer. And so yeah,
you're surrounded by writers.
I know. I can't join the party. You know, it would just seem.
And that's writing is like, now I think it's easier to write. It's harder to get your writing out there because everybody's writing.
Yeah. It's really tough. It's really, really tough. It's not an easy industry at all. But yeah, I'm a terrible artist in terms of drawing or painting, like a disaster. I have no skill in that area. But yeah, I think anything expressive is sort of my cup of tea.
Yeah. Art class was the stressful class for me when I was growing up. Like, I would be sweating in art class because I was so bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. I was not happy with that. Well, Kennedy, thank you so much. This has been the best. I knew it would be. I was so excited to talk with you. It's so weird because it seems like you've been doing this for a while, but you're really fairly new. You've got so much more to come. I can't wait to see what you get into.
Well, thank you so much. This was really lovely talking with you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's so nice. A couple of little things before I let you go.
Yeah.
Anything that you're working on outside of Nancy Drew that we can keep an eye out for?
I actually was in a couple episodes of this new Hulu show that's coming out. It's called Tell Me Lies.
Ooh,
okay. Fantastic. Everybody's wonderful. It should be a very good show. So that's coming out in Hulu. I don't know if it has a release date yet, but I think August or September.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Are you the killer?
I can't tell you that. No, as far as I know, there's no murder.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good though. Yeah, that's good. That's exciting.
That's coming out.
You've got some time to do a little bit extra outside of your Nancy Drewing.
Yeah, it's very nice. You know, the timing of how everything sort of went with the pandemic, we were all sort of either waiting to return to work or working on the show. And this was kind of our first hiatus that we got to really do anything else. And yeah, so I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that's it. That is exciting. So last thing, where can we find you on social media?
I am at Kennedy McMann on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, you've got the extremes there.
Huh?
You've got the extremes there because Instagram's kind of the nice one. Twitter's more the, it can be the angry.
Oh, I know. I can't look at Twitter. I only talk about Twitter is only for talking about Nancy Drew for me and interacting with the incredible people that watch our show. And that's it. I can't do anything else.
No,
I go insane. I go insane.
Yeah. Cause you can get sucked in just like that.
Oh my God. Yeah. It just makes you so depressed. I can't do it.
Yeah, but Instagram, you just put your pictures out there. It's very nice.
Yeah, it is very nice. Friendly, nice. I like that.
Thank you so much, Kennedy. I hope you'll come back at some point.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I would love to return. Thank you for having me.
So nice you're so welcome. This has been the best. Okay, hold on one second. How fun was that? The talented Kennedy McMann. I'm such a fan of her. I was a fan going in. Bigger fan coming out. She's so nice, so positive, so talented, and really interesting. I think talking about some of the struggles with OCD. I think that's an area that we're just starting to learn about, and to see somebody take some of those struggles and turn it into something positive and make it work for them, and then be a champion for other people that suffer from that. Amazing. That was a nice bonus to the interview. That was really cool. Thank you guys so much. You come back to us every week. I can't believe it. I'm so thankful, so grateful. Thank you so much. If you haven't done so yet, you can help us out by subscribing. It's easy. It's free, but it really does help us out. Our YouTube channel is Meisterkhan Pod. You can find all, unbelievably, 500 episodes, audio and video, on our website, Meisterkhan.com. If we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, if we're covering a convention, if we got a Nancy Drew convention we're going to, that'll be on the website, Meisterkhan.com. So please check that out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.